Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. There have been guesstimates over the years indicating that the average legislator's pay is more than 50 times Nigeria's GDP per capita,
which has been described as preposterous in a country where the minimum wage is set at 30,000 naira a month, leading to a campaign for a cut in the funds of National Assembly members.
Well, here to speak on the progress made on this through his lawsuit is the former Vice President of the Nigerian Bar Association, Monday Ubani. Good morning, Mr. Ubani. Thank you so much for joining us on the morning show.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
I know we want to talk about this lawsuit where you've just gotten what some would term a victory, but I'd like to start by asking you comments made by the Attorney General of the Federation just yesterday regarding the Twitter controversy in the country. So the Attorney General is saying if you do tweet, you may be tweeting your way to jail. Where does he derive the constitutional powers to do that?
That is a very good question. For Nigeria as a country, the jurisprudence is that nobody can be tried or convicted for an offense that is not a written offense. In other words, the Constitution says it's only a written law that you can offend. And so if there is no prescription by the National Assembly of any crime, you cannot in any way criminalize any offense that is not written. And so I don't know where the Attorney General derives that particular power to now make a pronouncement that those who flout the ban on Twitter will be prosecuted. He has directed his CPP to dust up his law book in order to ensure that he takes all the Nigerians to jail. So you can imagine how many will be jailed if that particular pronouncement becomes a reality, because virtually over 20 or 30 million Nigerians have all probably migrated to other platforms in order to have access to that important platform of communication, which is clearly allowed under democracy. If issue of freedom of expression is a constitutional provision which is provided for in Chapter 4. And that particular section of the Constitution has not been suspended. And there is no way you can take it away when there is no suspension or any enactment that has actually abridged the right of Nigerians to freely express themselves. So I doubt the possibility of convicting any person under that pronouncement. It's a mere pronouncement, and I think the Attorney General may have been misquoted.
Mr. Ubani, I want to jump now to your recent successful court case. As we've just discussed, there are a variety of things going on in Nigeria today. There's the ban on Twitter. There's obviously insecurity in various parts of the country. Why is your court case so important today?
Yeah, it is so important because over years we have been trying to know how much our legislators are earning, and they have been keeping it top secret. But from the grapevine, we got the information that these guys are earning more than other legislators in the entire world. And that information has been kept very secret until one Senator Shehu Sani came to the public space and disclosed the fact that these guys are earning such humongous amount of money as monthly salary and then allowances that are mind-boggling. I became very aggrieved when I look at the amount of money that is mentioned and then look at the economic reality in the country where people cannot afford a 1 square meal a day, where the level of poverty is clearly compounding. And I felt that this is not right, where you use 15% of your annual budget to service the lifestyle of just less than 500 Nigerians in a country where majority go to bed with an empty stomach. So I had to commence an action, one, to ask the court to determine whether the National Assembly members will be in a right position to be fixing salaries and allowances that I consider very humongous to themselves, when there is a particular agency that the Constitution has given such powers to fix salaries and allowances. And if the agency is not doing its duty, what will the court do in the circumstance? And so the court on 4th of June ruled that, one, the National Assembly Service Commission has no right under our Constitution to fix salaries and allowances for members of the House. Secondly, that it is only Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission that has the constitutional right to fix salaries and allowances. And they are now asked to begin to fix salaries and allowances for members of the House in accordance with economic reality. In accordance with economic reality. And then, since they denied receiving such humongous amount, if it is found out that they have been receiving such amount of money, then the EFCC should come in, investigate, and have them prosecuted. That is the import of the judgment that was actually delivered this last week. This week actually.
Yeah, this brings me to my next question, because you know that the members of the Assembly have denied collecting these jumbo remunerations and allowances. And should the EFCC try to do this investigation at this point, given the overly, relationship between the, judiciary and the legislature? Do you think that, the EFCC investigation would be, fair?
Well, I didn't hear the last question because at the time there was a seizure, but I understand it to be saying that whether the issue of non-disclosure, when they denied, whether we can be able to get at them through EFCC. The
Correct.
Point is this. Yes, did I get you right?
Yes,
in that,
you did.
In that question?
Correct. Yes.
Fine. Now, the EFCC is an investigative security agency. Now, there are members of the House that have been earning these fantabulous salaries and allowances over the years. And somebody like Sheikh Sani, who disclosed that information, the EFCC will want to get him to make a statement. Of course, if EFCC wants to get the facts of the entire case, they will succeed in doing that. Because somebody openly came up and claimed that this is the amount of money they've been collecting every month, and including the issue of constituency project funds, they've been collecting over 200 million. That is alleged. These guys are collecting in order to go and develop our constituencies, which, of course, you know that nothing is going on in that regard. So, since he is the one that made that statement, EFCC can take him, one, as a witness, in order to actually elaborate on the allegation that he has made, which has actually enabled me to go to court. And so from that angle, they will be able to know whether what he alleged or what he said on the pages of newspaper is a lie or the truth. From there, they can be able to get the correct information as to whether they have been collecting these humongous amounts of money as salaries and allowances. So that is the starting point. Somebody made that allegation, and that person can be a very veritable witness to EFCC in the first place in trying to decipher whether the allegation is true or a lie.
Well, Mr. Ubani, we'll be going on a break. I think we're ripe for that break now. Okay, but I'll ask the question so that when we return, you can then respond to my questions. Two quick questions. First, clarify to a lot of Nigerians who know that the courts have been shut because of a strike. How did this judgment come about on the 4th of June? Are the courts back? Are they open? And secondly, some will argue that it is not only the legislature that benefits from allowances and humongous salaries. The executive, and some will even say the judiciary, civil servants or public servants also have these allowances that they benefit from. So what do you say to those who say there's so much fixation, especially at the federal national level, the federal legislatures? And are you going to do this also when it comes to the state level? So those are my questions, but let's go on that break. When we come back, you have an opportunity to respond. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. We still have with us Mr. Monday Ubani, who is a legal practitioner. Thank you so much, Mr. Ubani, for staying with us. For the benefit of our viewers who have just joined us, allow me to reiterate my questions before the break. I was asking you to pray tell us if the courts are back open, how did this judgment come about? And I was also asking you, do you think, and for those who argue that there's so much fixation at the federal legislature about this allowances they're entitled to, who say the executive and the judiciary arm of government also get allowances?
Yes, it was a judgment that was delivered factually. It was a factual judgment that was delivered. It wasn't a physical judgment. What I mean by that, we didn't go to the court and then the court thrown open for us to come in to receive that judgment. I received an email that the judgment will be delivered last Friday. And then remember that it is not the court that is on strike; it's actually the people, the workers of the court, not the judges on strike. It's rather the workers in the court that are on strike. And so the judge said he has already written his judgment, has even typed it, and if any person is willing to go on appeal, he is ready to make that judgment available. The only snag is that we have to wait until the court opens and then we certify the judgment. So as to answer your first question, the judgment was delivered because it wasn't a physical judgment. Then on the issue of other arms of government that have been receiving bogus allowances also, the import of that judgment of Friday is that it's no longer business as usual. That the only agency that should fix salaries and allowances of public office holders is revenue mobilization, allocation, and fiscal commission. It is important we emphasize that, and the court pronounced that from now onwards, that is the only agency that is authorized to fix salaries and allowances of all public office holders in Nigeria. And so if there is any other arm that has been fixing all those bogus salaries and allowances, clearly illegal, clearly unconstitutional, they have no legal backing for that. And so I will insist, when I get a copy of this judgment, I will write to the Attorney General of the Federation and also to the various states of the Federation. I also write to the Minister of Finance, and I also write to the Accountant General. I also write to the Revenue Mobilization Commission. That letter will be written with the copy of the judgment in order to emphasize the fact that this is judgment of the court, that it's only them that have the responsibility from now onwards to fix salaries and allowances of public office holders, that no other person has such power to do that. That, again, is very clear. So that is the import of that. And I will begin to drive it to a logical conclusion alongside with other senior lawyers that have always been in the forefront to have good governance in Nigeria. Talking about Mr. Femi Falana, because he was the leading counsel in that case. And then, of course, I will also get Mr. Mike, the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, to involve in this fight in order to ensure that this judgment is obeyed by all the government agencies.
So, Mr. Ubani, you're talking about moving forward and making sure that public office holders are paid the correct amount and have the right access to the right amount of financial revenue and resources. But what about these public office holders and the money they've received in the past? Because many of these people will either run again for office or they'll remain prominent people in Nigerian society, even in international society. Will we ever find out how much they have been paid over the years, or does that remain unknown?
Clearly, that is a very beautiful question, because part of the relief I asked for in that case is that if it is found out that these guys have been receiving this humongous amount of money monthly, that the court should make an order for a refund. Now, the court said that the information that I gathered about those humongous amounts allegedly received by these lawmakers was on the pages of newspaper, and that the information from newspaper is unreliable and cannot be admissible in the process of trial in court. And so they disregarded that information that was actually disclosed from the pages of newspaper. You know, the difficulty is trying to get any truthful person that can come forward and say, look at my pay packet, look at how much I receive monthly or by way of salary or by allowance. They will not be willing to do that, except the security agencies, come step into the matter and then, get them now to disclose. So the issue of disclosure is very important, and I cannot, at this point in time, lay my hands on any of these public officers' pay packets in order to probably rush to court and tell the court this is the amount they are receiving and for which they should be held liable. So that has been a difficult. So the court said, look, they cannot rely on newspaper publication in order to ask them to respond. So those who have been earning those amounts of money, in future, time past, it may be difficult for me to ask to respond because I don't have the veritable evidence that this is how much they have been receiving. But from now onwards, what we should now begin to actually argue is that from now onwards, the right thing should be done. And if any person fails to do the right thing, then we go back to court in order to probably commit them for contempt of court judgment.
Right. So, you know, the court has recommended that there should be a downward review of the salaries and allowances to reflect the economic realities of in the country. In your assessment, what should be the amount? I know you quoted Senator Shehu Sani saying 13.5 million naira. You know, we've seen budgets earmarked for various allowances, including newspaper allowance, you know, furniture allowance. You know, really ridiculous amounts of money that have been allocated at this point. Now, the list goes on. Should this be all consolidated? And what would you recommend as an amount of money that the National Assembly should be receiving?
It's a very intelligent question. I think that the agency that is in charge of allocating salaries and allowances to do their duty, there is a clear parameter they use. That we know how much the president is supposed to earn. We know how much the vice president. I mean, it's all in the public here. So, but that of the legislators, we are not too clear. How much are they supposed to be earning? And I think there has been even a disclosure. I think their salary should be less than a billion naira in a month. We have always seen that either 800 or 900,000 naira in a month. But what we hear every time is that the kinds are earning up between, even during this man's David Mark, they were earning up as far as much as 30 million naira in a month for the Senate president. We have heard about that. So these are issues we want the Fiscal Allocation Commission now to deal with and publish it. And then we now make sure that every month that this is how much they should be earning in terms of salaries and allowances. So we should be clear as to how much they should be earning from now onwards. That is the import of that judgment. So I cannot stay here now and begin to tell the agency what to do by way of fixing salaries and allowances. They should know because they have a specific parameter through which they can grade the salaries and allowances of public officers. The president's own is known, that of the vice president is known. So I see no reason why that of the legislators should not be made public. Let us know how much they should earn a salary monthly. What are the allowances? Let those allowances be spelled out. So let people begin to be held accountable in governance. People don't go just to go and make money, while majority of Nigerians they represent are dying in poverty. They cannot afford 1 square meal a day. What kind of country is it? And we cannot continue living this way. So I have chosen this part of using the part of judiciary in order to ensure that things are done properly in this state. So we can't carry knives, we can't carry gun in order to go and kill any person, but we feel that we can use the judiciary in order to address some of the abnormalities that is playing out in our country, Nigeria.
Mr. Ubani, very quickly, I mean, you've mentioned the commission that has the responsibility to set allowances and salaries, in the country, the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission. Why do you think it has been so difficult to adhere and enforce, the salary scales provided by the commission? And what are your thoughts on asset declaration by public office holders? It doesn't seem to make much of a difference.
Yes. Over time, we have good laws in this country, but we have not had people applying our law or obeying the law. Obedience to law has always been a problem, and applying the law to every person in the country has always been a problem. We have a situation where few people, the political elite, the laws of the country do not apply to them, whereas the poor person that puts time to apply the laws of the country. So that has been the problem. It is clearly annoying and provoking that over years we have an agency that's supposed to fix salary and allowances, and they have been failing in their duty. And I'm very happy that they made a newspaper publication when those allegations were made by Shehu Sani. They said, look, we are not aware of those salaries and allowances, that we are not the one that fix those salaries and allowances. That was part of the evidence that I produced to the court. That tendered in court that look at what the agency that's supposed to fix salary and allowances say, that they are not the one that fix those bogus salaries and allowances. And so we must insist that things be done properly. We can't continue running a country that is clearly lawless. Where there is a law in place, people choose to do what they want to do. And so I don't know the reason why over years they've been unable to do the right thing by fixing salary allowance and insisting that those salary allowances should apply to them. Now that there is a court pronouncement based upon the fact that somebody has gone to court, I believe that we now want to see that application to a logical conclusion. Now, on the issue of public assets, it's also important that, to issue of people who have declared their assets. I see no reason why I should not know what my governor has declared when he's coming into governance. I see no reason why I should not also know what he declares when he's leaving office. That access to public information of what public officers disclose is what we discussed in our last conference, of FIDEL. I'm currently the chairman of FIDEL. FIDEL means Public Section of Public Interest and Development Law. It's a section in Nigerian Bar Association, and we discuss it. Why can't I know what my office holder, has disclosed when he's coming in and what he discloses when he's leaving office? So this issue of access to public information about disclosure is important. And we are saying that we need to amend the law that have actually excluded the public, members of the public, from having access to know what public officers disclose when they are coming in and when they are leaving office. So it's a critical discussion that is ongoing. And I feel that the ongoing amendment of the Constitution will be part of the thing that should be recommended, that we should have access and know what our public officers disclose. That's the only way we can curb corruption. When this government was coming in, believe me, part of the measures I felt that they should take, to fight corruption was this issue of disclosure, of people having access to what people have disclosed when they are coming in. You cannot fight corruption when somebody comes in, you don't know what he has disclosed. When he leaves, you don't even know what he has disclosed. He may lie, he may acquire so much when he came into power without, corresponding work he has done on behalf of the people. And he goes away with so much money from the system, whereas the people he has gone to represent are living in abject poverty. And so from now onwards, I think that what all of us should do, members of the press, the legal profession, and other professionals, we begin to ensure that things are done properly from the legal angle. Let's get a country that is running. That is the only way we can feel proud of being Nigerian. And then living the way we ought to live, because this country has so much, but little is being given to the majority. While few are living in opulence and obscene lifestyle that one cannot describe.
Well, Mr. Ubani, I think that's a good point to leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Monday Ubani, former Vice President of the Nigerian Bar Association. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure.